I'm making steak negimaki, which is a very famous Japanese steak dish. Negi means spring onions and maki means roll. So what I'm going to be doing is wrapping these spring onions in some very thin steak. Now the first thing I need to do is blanch the vegetables, and I'm going to line up the 3 spring onions along with a few asparagus, and I'm going to cut them the same length. And we can use all of these spring onion tops too. So again, measuring and then cutting those off. Now that everything's the same size, we're going to cut it in half. And I'll do the same for the rest of the asparagus. So the asparagus just need to be cut in half. Now these stalks have loads of flavour, so we're going to be using them too. So now we'll just gather those up and we'll pop them in some water, so some rapidly boiling water, along with a generous pinch of salt. Now when you're blanching, you need to wait for the water to come back up to the boil. That's the perfect indication to tell you to bring the vegetables out. We want them to still have a slight crunch because when we cook them again on the grill, they will start to tenderise there. So that'll just take a few minutes. While that's happening, I can get onto the steak. Now I've asked my butcher to cut nice thin minute steaks. You can get minute steaks everywhere these days. I'm using sirloin steak, but you could also use rump steak. And you could also use skirt steak, works nicely. The idea is to get as thin as possible so we can wrap it around the vegetables. With this recipe, it's the perfect ratio of meat to vegetable. So my butcher has left a little fat on it. I like a little fat on it. If you don't like it, you can take it off. And to pound these nice and thin, we're going to just place the steak in between 2 pieces of baking paper, a meat mallet, or you could use just a rolling pin, and then we're just going to flatten this out until it's very thin. And as you can see, I'm just pressing out just to stretch out the meat too. Okay, that's the first one done. Also, by pounding the meat out, we're tenderising it, so it's going to be lovely and soft once it's cooked. See how it's almost doubled in size? That is perfect. Now I need to cut the meat in half. So just very delicately place it on the board so it doesn't break up, and then we'll cut the steak in half. So that's the first one done. I'll continue on with this process and wait for those vegetables to finish blanching, and I'll allow them to cool before we start rolling. Okay, so the steak has been prepared, the vegetables have come out of the water, they're perfectly blanched, and now for the fun part, which is rolling. This is fantastic to get the kids involved and also just showing them how to use their vegetables in different ways. So what I'm doing is placing a piece of asparagus and spring onion at the base of the piece of meat, and then I'm going to tightly roll it. And you want the seam side down, so just press down on it. And I like to expose the spring onion and the asparagus just so when you're serving it to your guests, they know what type of vegetables are in the centre. Now you can put a toothpick in this, or just ensure when you're grilling it, you do place the seam side down and it will stick together. Now to make this taste even better, and it's not a steak negimaki without teriyaki sauce. I love to have a bit of teriyaki sauce in the cupboard on standby for a really simple recipe like this. You can use it as a marinade or as a glaze, and then this teriyaki sauce has some vinegar in it, some soy sauce. It also has some sugar, so it is going to be nice and glossy when it comes off the grill. So I just have a bowl ready to go. We'll place our teriyaki sauce into the bowl, and with a brush, I'm just going to brush a thin layer of the teriyaki sauce all over the meat. Now you can make these ahead of time, pop them in the fridge, will taste even better as the marinade absorbs into the meat, or you can cook them immediately. I also like to have my teriyaki sauce on standby so I can baste as the meat is cooking on the grill. These cook in no time, and you can see here that it's still just slightly rare. See how there's just a little pinkness there? I like it that way, but if you want to cook them all the way through, by all means, you can do that. So I'm going to line them up on a plate. Traditionally, these would be cut so they almost look like sushi, but I kind of like them whole like this. And you can serve them as is, as an entree, or what you could do is serve a few of them with some rice, a delicious meal in itself. And I'm going to cut one in half just so you can see in the centre. Cut it on an angle. Oh, look at that. See how you can see the beautiful colours of the vegetables and that delicious succulent meat. I'm going to cut that again in half so I can have a taste. They are divine. Little bundles of joy with the asparagus inside and that sweetness of that glossy teriyaki sauce. Absolutely delicious.